gym plans. All of them are anchored around some not always fully thought out ideas to humor the person in power. We had transformation agenda. Today we have change agenda. And it's the same civil service. You see, Nigerian workers do go on strike because of poor pay. And it's all on national television. And the question is, how many are these Nigerian workers? Less than 300,000. And that's where the bulk of the, overhead goes into. So when you speak of the Nigerian, you have a massive population of the real Nigerians who cultivate the food we eat, who are not captured in the budgeting and expenditure pattern of the government, and who've gotten accustomed to living their lives. If you don't announce a budget in 10 months, it's not going to, Balogun market won't shut down. The food market in, won't shut down, etc. The West African trade will not go down, but the banks will cry. Those who do government contracts will cry. So you have a corporate Nigeria, not sufficiently connected to the rest of the country, not doing enough for small and medium-scale industries that do most of the employment, and so you have a disconnect at that level as well.
How do you suggest, because that has been also a problem for government, even though some will also argue that there is actually a connection. At the end of the day, Balogun market also depends on workers who earn salaries. And if you look at a lot of the private firms who, yes, they're more than government parastatals and obviously employ more, a lot of them also depend on this government contract, as it were, you know, to also be able to sustain. So if they're not able to pay salaries, that definitely will have some effect in terms of purchasing power and what people at Balogun markets will see. But what more do you think government can do to, you know, ensure that that connection is there?
My question would be, what is it the people should do? We always attack this nebulous entity called government. If I'm a local government chairman and I get an allocation every month of, let's say, 200 million, and nobody asks me questions, will you hold me entirely responsible for becoming irresponsible? My uncle doesn't raise any issue, okay? I don't know, but it's just 3 months since after you've bought 3 cars and it's not official. My mother doesn't raise any issue. My pastor calls me for, Thanksgiving, and I sings the song, "It Shall Be Permanent." And then I get a chieftaincy title. First, I'm becoming a wrong model for a new generation of badly behaved people. Secondly, the people don't realize I'm their servant who should offer explanation. So they don't realize I should tell them how I spend the money sent to me in their name. So reverse the discussion. It is for the people to begin to make demands of governments. That's why organizations like town unions should become meaningful. Women organizations in communities should become meaningful, etc. Everybody has a responsibility wherever he or she stands to offer leadership, if only to himself or herself alone. So the Nigerian state is skewed, and because it's comfortable to stand and abuse government, even those who collect money from people in office will still say there's so much corruption in Nigeria. But they will walk up to him and say, please, I need 2 million for so and so. But you know the man's salary is 670,000. So what are the people doing? That will also impact one way or another on what government is doing. You accept money from me in order to vote for me. After the election, I owe you no business because I paid up on time. It was an upfront transaction. And even you don't feel a sense of obligation to demand explanation. That's what Nigeria has become. And that's where there's also a crisis of value. But where leadership comes in is that clear signals from a leader could make all the difference. He sets a new template. No, this will not happen. And it doesn't happen. And he then begins to have a ripple effect. So it's one way or the other.
Are you saying that already? Because even though you say that the person seems to be singing one song and people around him, from what you said, confidential conversations you've had, seem like they're singing another song.
Are you sure you're quoting me correctly?
You said they were irritated.
I know, I'm joking.
I thought I heard that from you.
Yeah. The point is, look around you. The fight against corruption is going on. How many people are celebrating it within their hearts? Not how many people are making speeches in public about it. And when you speak of corruption, it's focused on mismanagement of public funds. That's abuse of access. Whereas corruption is, first of all, at the level of values. We are running a corrupt nation at the level of values, but we are fighting about 1% of corruption, which is stealing and misapplication and misappropriation of funds. You know you helped to rig me into power. but I'm either His Excellency or His Distinguished or whatever. You know how much I paid. Everything around us is debauched. So corruption is distortion. You introduce sand into a pot of soup, you've corrupted it. You teach young people the wrong thing, you've corrupted their values.
And all of this, at the end of the day, does have some impact in terms of what our GDP eventually is. So should we all be taking responsibility if we find ourselves at a fragile growth of 0.55%?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, because partly, yeah, we should all, because I ask myself as a citizen, or I should, did I demand explanations? As a farmer, I should ask myself, as I saw fertilizer going up, as we were called to pay bribe to get it, did I really protest? Did I ask the others? Because if we refuse to buy it, nobody will touch that fertilizer. I'll ask myself, is it possible we don't really understand our strength? If answers to these questions are procured, you find that responsibility will be properly distributed so that people don't sit down complacently pointing at those in public office, whereas they're actually the problem for many people in public office who wouldn't want to break the rules.
Well, it's a fine place to leave it, and we have to thank you most kindly. Dr. Ikechukwu MNI is the Executive Director, Development Specs Academy, and also a development consultant. Sunrise Daily will continue in just a moment. Please stay with us.